Hello again, everybody. It's time for a review of Saturday Night Live episode 2 of season 46. Brendan Green, Joe Wayman, here to tell you what we thought about last night's show. Interestingly enough, we're recording this on Sunday afternoon, which happens to be the 45th anniversary of Saturday Night Live.
There you go. Now, who are what do we call ourselves again?
This is the Wild and Crazy Guys podcast. And I don't know if you guys can tell the difference at home, but I purchased a ring light for my computer, and I'm going to write it off as a work expense towards the Wild and Crazy Guys podcast.
There you go.
That puts our roughly -$7.
Okay, it's not bad.
No, I think that's about right for most podcasts. Now, last night,
go
ahead.
Well, I was going to lead off by saying that this week kind of got off to a start on Tuesday or so. I was checking on Twitter and saw that Morgan Wallen was trending, and I thought maybe this was his fans. I didn't know what he was about, and so I checked on Morgan Wallen to find out he was spending some time with some partygoers at the University of Alabama last weekend, and these videos were surfacing around Tuesday. And about Thursday, I believe it was announced that he would not be the musical guest this week.
He decided to roll tide at a college party, and he lost. And so he was replaced by Jack White, who I have to tell you, well, spoiler, we'll get to Jack White in a little bit. But yeah,
on Jack White, I think someone said that between him and Bill Barr, this was the palest host musical guest duo of all time. I not confirmed, but the palest duo of the host and musical guest. I'll look into that a little bit, do some research, but it sounds about right.
That does sound about right, and I think I think one of them was a little better received, at least on this end of the computer, than the other. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Mr. Wayman, we will allow you to run the review as you always do.
All right, so we open up. We had the cold open as expected with the VP debates, and I think the echo last week, it was way too long. I had 12 minutes on the cold open, which to me, anything over 5 or 6, you're really charting into like some very, very just long, drawn out waters. Now, obviously, they did the debates, and then they brought in the fly component to it, which I thought was not bad, but it's way too long and a little bit weird at first with like the whole like time travel thing with Biden and his wife, and all very odd to me.
There were some high points of that because you're able to showcase kind of that fiscal comedy, silly comedy aspect of Jim Carrey and him playing the fly. So that part I appreciated. We also learned that Jim Carrey can do a very mediocre Jeff Goldblum impersonation. Yeah. That I don't know if Jim Carrey has ever heard Jeff Goldblum, but he would not be my choice for a Jeff Goldblum impersonator should I ever be throwing a party that calls for a Jeff Goldblum impersonator. The other thing that I was really curious about, because I said this to you earlier in the week, if you have subscribed to Patreon, you got this content. I said this to you earlier in the week that I really thought Jeff Goldblum would somehow be involved once I thought about The Fly. So I'm not sure why the real Jeff Goldblum wasn't there.
Yeah, maybe they couldn't fit more people in there because Herman Cain even was taking the form of a fly. All very odd. Now, obviously, we love Keenan, so we were kind of giving that a pass, but all in all, pretty odd. Now, before the fly stuff, I thought the debate stuff was pretty good, and Maya Rudolph, I thought as Kamala Harris was fantastic, and I thought when she did the Philly accent part, to me it was impressive because she was obviously playing a person with an accent, or a voice, and then she drove that into another accent and did a pretty good job with it. So I thought it was pretty impressive, which brings me to my hot take that I teased out to you earlier in the week. I think Maya Rudolph is better than Tina Fey and Amy Poehler from that era as a cast member. Obviously, Tina Fey and Poehler get the notoriety for Update fame, for their post-SNL careers with 30 Rock and Parks and Rec, respectively. But as a cast member, I still feel Maya Rudolph was a better cast member. She has more versatility. She's a phenomenal actress, great impersonations. To me, I think she's just great. And so that's my hot take on that. Is I like her. I think she's a better cast member historically than Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
You may not like to hear this, but I would call that a lukewarm take.
Really?
I think that Amy Poehler and Tina Fey certainly have more to hang their hats on post Saturday Night Live. But oh my gosh, Maya Rudolph, while she was a cast member, you had Versace, you had Whitney Houston, you had a lot of She was outstanding. I'm a big Maya Rudolph fan.
Well,
No complaints on this end.
maybe our listeners can chime in on this one, but I think, I mean, Faye and Polar did a lot as writers, and obviously the update desk is huge. But as a cast member, I think, yeah, Rudolph's versatility to me is just is fantastic.
I'm a huge fan. I'm glad she's back. Huge supporter.
So again, as I said, a bit too long, but at the same time, it has some moments. But again, I think this 12 minutes is just too long.
Yeah.
We then move into the monologue, which our second week in a row having a stand-up comedian. Now Chris Rock is shifted more into acting than comedian, than stand-up comedy. But Bill Burr is more of a stand-up comedian who acts on the side a little bit, and his monologue was interesting.
It seemed to me that it set the tone for the entire show, and I think the entire show's tone last night was, let's push the envelope as far as we can to see what people still find funny and what we can't joke about anymore, which I have to tell you, I found terribly off-putting. I didn't like most of last night. Now that's a spoiler for a lot of the reviews. There were some high points, but I thought Bill Burr kind of just set the tone of let's throw everything out there and see, if shock comedy is still working. And it seemed, certainly his monologue seemed extremely tone deaf to me. Know your audience.
Right. I texted you that last night during the show, know your audience, or know the room, and he did. And SNL is, let's be honest, like, it's not really a place where I think conservatives go to get too much entertainment. People who would be against all this cancel culture. And so the people probably who watch the show are probably people who are aware of the climate of our society right now. And for him to go full in on them, I thought was an odd choice. I'm not going to editorialize on the content and like chime in on that, but I think to me it was just an odd choice for him to do that in that room, in that setting, like that. And there were some I could feel the tension through the TV. It seemed like a very tense studio during that. It didn't seem the audience seemed very uncomfortable. At one point he said plowing ahead, which I guess is like something he does on his show when there's kind of a dull moment. And there are a lot of these dull moments in that monologue where it just was not landing at all.
And I don't think he recovered. I just don't think, I don't remember him getting any huge laughs throughout any of the sketches he was in.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's an odd strategy with that small of a crowd to almost play like the bad guy wrestler as you come out. You're saying a whole bunch of stuff that probably, again, that group is not going to appreciate, and then you have to entertain them for an hour and a half. I'm not sure what the strategy there was.
Yeah, and obviously, what Bill Burr is. You know who he is. That wasn't a surprise last night, and more so, I'm sure obviously they had to have written out his monologue on the cue cards or something, because this wasn't like he flew under the radar and snuck this in. People knew what was going on, so an odd choice all around. But by the time he ended, it was 20 minutes in. We touched on this last week, how the monologue and cold opener has taken way too much time of the show. So you only had very few cast members throughout the course of the show in the first 20 minutes of an hour and a half show. So to me, that's kind of an odd choice to have that be that long and be that way, but maybe that's the way they're going with this. So our first sketch then was a backyard gathering. Not quite sure how to otherwise label it. It was a gathering of neighbors who were getting together for the first time, it seems like, since COVID broke out. And it was a mild banter back and forth, and then the mispronunciation of the word president versus precedent led to some very, awkward conversations.
Awkward conversations, and it was a recurring joke because it happened a couple more times with different words and pronunciations. And there was a lot of talent on that stage, and oof.
Yeah,
I did not get any good laughs out of that sketch.
It had some, I think, good setup, but just like and then they try to sell it so hard by some physical comedy and throwing stuff. To me, just seemed very, very, very odd. I didn't quite know what the whole point of that was, and it really fell off the rails pretty quickly.
My theory on a lot of these sketches is that they were leftovers from last week. When the writers all got together and kind of came up with all of their ideas from all the time they've been gone. This is the stuff that didn't make it last week, perhaps for good reason.
Yeah, for sure. So the next sketch was a show called Blitz, I believe, some kind of sports recap show, like a first take show on ESPN of pundits going at it and arguing back and forth. I thought this concept was a kind of a cool idea. Bill Burr was playing this sportscaster who was very excited about the Bears getting the victory, whereas Kenan Thompson was playing another sportscaster who was distracted on the night because there was another police shooting of an African American man, and this made Kenan very upset. And obviously, Ego Nodum was the host of the show, so she was also upset about this, and Bill Burr was totally unaware this had happened.
This was, I would say, if I had to pick a favorite sketch of the evening, this was probably it. This was, I think, the crown jewel, or the thing that was at least closest to a traditional Saturday Night Live sketch. Well acted, well played by everybody. This was okay. I had no issue with this.
Yeah. The steak part got dragged out a little bit with the steak and all that, but then when Pete Davidson had the giant pepper shake, I thought that was pretty good.
It was the biggest pepper shaker I've ever seen in my life. I liked that.
Yeah, so that was all right. I think good concept. I think it got a little bit drawn out, but I thought the concept was good. Execution was pretty solid. So to me, that was a decent moment in the night. Next up was the digital short, which I don't really know how to describe this one or how to title it, but Beck Bennett was playing a low-level actor who made a black and white video kind of blasting Trump and blasting what's happening in the world. And he was quickly told to take it down by his friends and family.
And yelled at by Jason Momoa as well.
Yeah. I thought this was pretty lazy.
Very lazy. I know the 11 subscribers that we have, we're up to 11. We're into double digits.
Whoa.
I don't want anybody to write in and say I'm being negative, because I really do love Saturday Night Live, but last night was rough for me, and there was just not a whole bunch that I really enjoyed. And it's a shame, because I really like Beck Bennett. I think he's an amazing cast member, but there wasn't much to work with on that one.
Yeah, it was tough, and I think after this point we go in different directions, because I started to enjoy some parts, but this to me was an odd one, and a digital short that usually they're pretty good, pretty well thought out, a lot of cool concepts to it, but this one just to me fell rather flat.
Yeah.
Jack White had his first performance next, and Jack White, music wise, I'm kind of ambivalent. I like it, but I think he's super talented, and so I like watching him perform. I thought it was pretty good.
I don't think I'd ever heard a Jack White song or performance prior to last night, and I really enjoyed what I saw. Very kind of Led Zeppelin like kind of the sound, not only the voice but the music. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of great energy. I really liked that performance. And as you know, the majority of the time when I'm watching on Sunday morning with my Hulu and my black coffee, I skip the musical performances. But I'm really happy that I didn't, because I enjoyed him.
Yeah, a good job. I thought the second song was better, but we can get to that down the road. Update was next. Weekend updates. And I thought that the first couple of jokes to me were really good. Obviously, making fun of Trump is kind of the milieu of Jost and Che. I thought some of their setup and their jokes were really good. Really kind of pushing the envelope of being in poor taste, but that's kind of what Michael Che does. And so I thought the early part of Update was pretty solid.
Yeah, and I think that might be where you and I switched just a little bit, because I think it was very kind of a callback to Bill Burr's monologue. A lot of push the envelope jokes. Let's see what we're going to get. And there were a couple that they told that the audience, like, I wouldn't say they turned on Michael Che or Colin Jost, but they certainly didn't respond with laughter.
No. Now we had Dr. We Notice, played by Kate McKinnon, which was kind of a fun gimmick for the first 30 seconds, and then got odd. Then got really odd as Kate McKinnon broke the proverbial fourth wall and broke character and became Kate McKinnon. Again, your thoughts on this?
Dr. We Notice was not my favorite. Had some pieces of. Do you remember when she played? Oh gosh, I just had the name and it left me. The lady who had repainted the Echo Homo painting in Borea, Spain. Celia Jimenez was her name, and
okay, good recall there.
Yeah, when she repainted the painting, she would say, I like the painting. Now give me my money. That was her. That was her big thing. And there was some parts of that to Doctor We Notice. I liked the second half when she broke character more. I thought that was funnier than the
Now,
character.
do you think that was being genuine, or was she just setting up Jost for the final? We got this.
I think it's probably a mixture of both. I think that's probably good comedy, but I think that kind of like you said, that broken fourth wall is always a fun thing to see. They don't do it very often, so when they do it, I like to take note. I liked the second half better than the first.
Okay. I thought Pete Davidson was the next guest. He was playing Pete Davidson. I thought he was really good. I think, some of the sharpest I've seen Pete Davidson on the show. He didn't just go for the easy stuff. He made a couple cracks at himself for Mental Health Awareness Week, and I guess for him maybe it's cathartic. I don't know, but aside from that, I thought he was really good. Good observations, good delivery, good timing on his jokes. I was happy to see Pete Davidson look as good as we've seen him in that role.
Yeah, and knowing me for as long as you've known me, Pete Davidson comes in with a negative feedback on me already. I'm not a Pete Davidson fan, but last night I thought he was great. I thought he was right on. To your point, he sounded and looked and seemed healthy and happy, and was doing a really great job on updates. So that's as big a compliment as I can give him, knowing that I'm not a huge fan to start with.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his few minutes on update last night. One of the him along with Jack White would be kind of the highlights, the toppers of the evening for me.
We come out of update with a meeting at an Italian restaurant in which we had a mob boss played by Bill Burr who had just gotten out of prison. Seemingly for a fairly long time he was there, and they're sitting down and having dinner and getting caught up. And quickly he learns that the world has changed and some political correctness have now become mainstream, even for the mob. I got to be honest, I thought this was a great sketch. A great idea, great execution. I think everyone who had a part in this sketch did a great job.
I think it's very much as something that we predicted in our first episode with the preview of the kind of idea where somebody's been in a coma or somebody's been lost and they don't know what 2020 looks like and they have to learn all about it. I think this is very much, it's almost like the My Mom Married Kenan Thompson sketch last week in some of the premise. I enjoyed it, but I think it was kind of predictable in its it was predictable in its content, but very well performed.
Yeah, I thought just the tie-in, like he made reference to Jamie Kennedy as being this punk show host guy, and obviously Jamie Kennedy is someone who probably no one under 30 knows who Jamie Kennedy is. But some of the other tie-ins, like with like someone, he made fun of someone who then went home and took a mental health day because it was too traumatic for them to have to go through that. And then Punky Johnson at the end being brought in, and I thought even the tie-in to that was pretty good. I don't know. I thought top to bottom, this was a maybe predictable, but I thought it was well good concept, but more importantly, good execution. So I was pretty high on this sketch. So I was really turning favorable to me at this moment.
Yeah, I had no problem with it. Just as I said, I think the writing was predictable, but it was really, really, really well performed.
So then we then have another digital short for Sam Adams, a pumpkin beer by Sam Adams, and they did like a local taste test at a grocery store. And it was mostly favorable, like good, wholesome commercial talk. And then Bill Burr, who clearly comes from like a Southie type neighborhood in Boston, and he tries it and isn't all that won over by it. And then his son gets pulled into it, and then all kind of heck breaks loose. I thought this was really good too.
This was Bill Burr's high point for me. I think he really was, and there were a lot of very subtle things that we don't have any viewers of any part of the country, but certainly not Boston. But in case we do, I don't want to offend anybody. But there were very little pieces that were clearly making fun of Bostonians, or just very little details. Well, I don't want to editorialize, but there were very, very, very funny little parts to that commercial that I think it was Bill Burr's strongest point of the evening, and really everybody in there did a great job with it.
And I don't know what part of Boston he's from, but he is from Boston, or at least in the New England area, and so perhaps some tie into that, and he leads into that character sometimes too on some stuff. And the part when they were just walking in the store, their masks were like down below their chins, like kind of half on, the way that like you may expect someone who is like that might be approaching the mask concept. So that to me was a subtle detail that just made it made it sell a little better, and I thought it was very well done. I thought it was a clever bit, but again, kind of went back to what we previously said. I got by my count, I only had three true sketches in the whole show. Am I wrong here? I got the backyard thing, the Blitz, and the Italian, the mob group at the Italian restaurant. Only three live sketches. Like the cold open too, I guess, but
that's what happens when you're cold open and your monologue go 20 minutes. I think you just can't have as much content. But the 2 digital shorts were really well done. I liked them both.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess that's a bigger conversation maybe down the road about like the evolution of the show and like how it's just going away from live sketch comedy and going more into digital shorts and obviously the political stuff. I thought it was
that may be out of necessity. It may have to do with social distancing or things like that. But
yeah, true.
I wasn't as big a fan of the Beck Bennett of the Beck Bennett virtual short, but I did like the Bill Burr one.
We then had closed out with one last performance by Jack White. This one was freaking awesome. I thought he was just great in it. He really showed off his guitar chops quite a bit. And I didn't really see this. I'm not a guitar aficionado person, but like some of the ways he played was reminiscent of Eddie Van Halen, who of course passed this week. And afterwards, they did show a time when Eddie Van Halen played with the Saturday Night Live bands. I don't think he was a musical guest, but he played with them. He was in the neighborhood, I guess, and played with them. So perhaps a tip of the hat by Jack White to Eddie Van Halen, but the show brought him in a little bit as well.
Yeah, I liked the tribute, and as I said, I really Jack White has made a fan out of me. I didn't know him before last night, but I really enjoyed the performances, both of them. I liked the energy. I liked the music has kind of it's an interesting combination of like pretty hard rock and almost blues. It's not something I don't know who else to compare it to. As I said, Led Zeppelin, and that's what comes to mind when I hear him. And I really liked it. I was really happy to watch him.
I agree. I think to me there's a Led Zeppelin tune to him, and I think we'll get probably some hate mail from our Led Zeppelin fan base of our 11 followers. Because it's kind of sacrilege compared to Led Zeppelin, but I thought Jack White does have some of the blues hard rock component that Robert Plant was a big part of when he was in Led Zeppelin. So that was it.
I will tell you, if you're looking to get a good deal on Audible, use the code Get the Lead Out from the Wild and Crazy Guys podcast. You may get yourself a free month of Audible.
You also might not. So it's kind of a coin flip.
You got a 50-50 shot.
Yeah. So that was it. Next was the credits. And this what I noted down. No Cecily again. So Cecily Strong, for all we know, is not in the studio the last 2 weeks. I've not really done research as to why that may be. But it's kind of an interesting note. We had no Melissa Villaseñor in the show. She was the credits. The new guy, who I'm going to keep calling the new guy until he gets into a sketch, was not in there. Lauren Holt and Punky Johnson both made appearances, albeit brief, in this episode. But that was all I noticed really from the credits.
I don't remember seeing much 80 in the show either.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that Cecily was not, because this week I made a very cognizant effort of watching the credits to see if Cecily was there, and she was not. So that's 2 weeks in a row. No Cecily, but as you mentioned, she's doing some stuff with the Peacock Network. She may just have some other stuff going on. So,
yeah.
But the other thing you brought up that I think is such a good point is those in between commercial glances into the stage, where you get to see Lauren talking to the cast, and you get to see kind of people putting the set up and moving around. Those are really nice. I like those a lot.
It's cool to see how it happens. And like we said last week, being out of the studio is like the studio is part of the show. It's part of the cast, and like just seeing how they do things in between is fascinating. And we take it for granted sometimes at home how polished the show does look, even though it is live, even though it is done in different parts of the studio. It is really polished, and so seeing stuff like that to me is always kind of fun. And it always impresses me how much Lauren still does hands-on stuff all week, and even up to the show, he's really involved with it.
this may not be a reference that all 11 followers understand, but I feel like Lorne Michaels is a very Vince McMahon like figure, where even though he's been doing this for 50 years, he is still aware of who everybody is. He's still aware of what their strengths are, how he's going to use them, what the crowd wants to see. I think sometimes when you have people that have been doing it for a long time, they kind of rest on their laurels, and they delegate responsibility to other producers, etc. It seems like Lorne is not that kind of person. It seems like he's very much involved still, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And questions about what will happen when he eventually retires or passes on, those are questions I think people ask a lot about, because it is an institution. It is something that it kind of does itself, but at the same time, is he the secret sauce in it? So that's a question people have asked for a long, long time, but he seems to be alive and going well with it. So don't see that changing anytime soon. But when Lorne does step aside, I think there's a lot of questions about what will happen then. But
and I think the questions are valid, because for the times that he was gone, for the couple of years he was not there, ratings were in the they were not good. They were not good. So I think there's a lot of questions about what happens there. Is he the one that carries the whole creative process?
Yeah. So that was it for the show. So we turn on to episode 3, which is this coming Saturday. Usually they do 3 weeks on and then 1 or 2 weeks off. So this will be the last. They'll probably take a mini break for the week of the 24th and possibly Halloween. I don't know what to do about that one. But next up is Issa Rae is the host. She is the star of the HBO show Insecure. I didn't know her name, but once I saw her picture, I kind of recognized her and some stuff. But I think she's more, probably people younger than us will be more familiar with her. And then Justin Bieber is musical guest. So my prediction for next week is that we'll see Kate McKinnon as Justin Bieber at some point in time.
Justin Bieber, whenever he's been on the show, has usually been pretty good about being in some sketches too. He's pretty, he gets a lot of bad raps, but he always seems pretty funny, pretty approachable, at least when he's on Saturday Night Live. So I'd look to see some stuff from him. I'm not familiar with Issa Rae, but I'm looking forward to learning about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. There's no debate this week. The debate has been canceled. As of this recording, debate is not happening this week. So we'll see if they kind of make a imaginary debate or a virtual debate between the candidates. Eager to see how they handle that one. And of course, the president will be back on the road, according to him, this week. So maybe we'll see Alec Baldwin come back in for a spell.
And as we've said before, I mean, this is Sunday afternoon at 4:30. So by the time Saturday night at 10:30 comes around, who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 days? A cold open might write itself. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, this will be coming up this episode 3 this week. And then we're not going to go away, right? When the show's away, we're going to have some little special bonus episodes free to all members, Patreon or not Patreon. We'll make those free to everyone.
Patreon gets them early, but they'll be free to everybody. And I believe we discussed on those off weeks, one of the things we want to do is we want to talk about, with the election coming up, we want to talk about our favorite SNL presidents.
Or presidential candidates, right? Candidates too, or just presidents?
We're basically a presidential themed episode where we talk about presidents, presidential candidates, great presidential sketches. I look forward to that, because we've talked about that a lot in the past, and it's a great conversation.
Yeah, maybe a Halloween nod to Halloween coming up, some of our favorite Halloween sketches. Maybe our fans could submit some of their favorite Halloween sketches they've been in contact with.
We would love it if our fans would submit anything to us. Feel free to comment, email. It's fine with us. Of course, if you want to email us quicker, you can do that. What's it called? Monkey Chimp? What's it called? MailChimp?
MailChimp. I don't know what that is, but I heard about it.
MailChimp. Yeah, if you subscribe to MailChimp and you help out our dear friend and you use the promo code NORM, you get yourself a free month of MailChimp.
I think that Norm's lawyer might be sending us a cease and desist letter soon, but we'll see what happens.
Well, maybe he's one of the 11 subscribers, and to you, I say thank you.
Thank you, Norm.
All right.
That's it. That's all we got.
That's what we've got. We will see you next week for episode 3, Issa Rae and Justin Bieber. Until then, say goodnight, Joe.
Good night, Joe.
All right. We'll see you. Take care.